the idea of following up with your leads and positioning yourself as the expert is the name of the game right now. So I'm going to take you through some strategies. I'm going to take you through some actual examples as well. And you're going to be able to see what the types of things that you should be putting out there that are going to help, educate these leads and position you as that go-to expert, that go-to agent, that when they do have questions, when they are ready to list, when they are ready to buy, you're the one that gets the phone call. So I'll bring the slides back up real quick. Here we go. So let's say you followed everything that Dave was just kind of talking about there when it comes to, finding new prospects, or maybe these are even existing leads that you already have in your funnel. So the question is right now, October 14th or here in 2020, what do you do next? So I would posit that you probably have a couple options. And I think the better of the two is going to become quite obvious, but let's look at option one. Now, this is a shot from one of my favorite TV shows. I don't know if you guys watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but this is from an episode where two characters decide, hey, how hard can it be to be a real estate agent? They're going to try and flip a house, and they basically get their first, leads into a showing and physically bar them from leaving the house and demand that the couple commit to buying the home right on the spot. Now, I'm not saying that this is something that agents are actually doing in reality, that we do in reality, but what we are guilty of sometimes is maybe coming in a little hot. Maybe you're asking them to marry you on the equivalent of the first date, if you will. So what we want to make sure that we're not doing is going after and chasing our leads, smothering them even. What you do want to do is you want to lead them, because they will follow you if you lead them and if you approach them at their speed. So how do you do that? I think one of the best quotes that I've seen that talks about how you can get leads to follow you is from Donald Miller at StoryBrand. And if you haven't checked out StoryBrand, this is a fantastic book, a fantastic company that helps you clarify your message so customers will listen. People do not follow the best leaders. They follow the ones that they can understand the easiest. So what does that mean? People need to understand what you're trying to communicate. And, our goals as agents needs to be to ensure that, when leads first come into our sphere, that we're putting out a message that they can understand. And this is where your leads are going to be looking up for you online. Everyone does online search, whether you're buying a mattress or, especially if you're doing something as big as buying a home. Everyone's doing online research. So you need to think about, what do you have out there when folks are coming in and checking you out? So what I did here is I pulled together the 3 top sites that people are using to search. The first one, it's pretty obvious. It's Google. Now, what does that mean that you need to think about when it comes to when people are searching for you on Google? This is information that's going to be on your website. This is information, maybe a daily blog that you have. These are even reviews and things like that past customers might be leaving about you. This is the type of stuff that's going to come up on Google. So what are you putting out there that folks are going to find when they look you up on Google? The second most popular website out there that people are searching on is YouTube. So are you creating videos? Do you have a YouTube channel? What are you putting out there in terms of video content that's going to also help position you as the expert and help your clients, your leads and potential clients understand what you're putting out there? And the third one that I'm going to list here, it's number 4. I'm going to see if any of you can guess what number 3 is. Put it in the chat if you think you know what number 3 is. The number 4 top site is Facebook. And really, ultimately, that's your social media. So Facebook, that also ties in with Instagram as well. These are things like, what are you posting on your social media accounts? Are you putting graphics up there? Do you have posts that are talking about what's happening in the market right now? Everything that Dave just went into around what's happening with equity, what's happening with prices and inventory. Is this a good time to buy or sell? That's another great place for you to be positioning yourself as the expert. Now, I don't mean to overwhelm you guys. So I'm not saying you need to go and focus on all 3 of these right here, right now. Pick the one that's going to make the biggest difference for you. If you know where your leads are coming in from, make sure you focus on that channel first. And before we go on, I want to make sure, in case anyone guessed correctly, the 3rd most popular one is Amazon. So fortunately, Amazon is not buying or selling homes right now. We'll just keep our fingers crossed on that one. So we're going to focus on these other 3 in the meantime. So folks are going to search for you. And the question is, what are they going to leave thinking? So what we're going to do next is I'm going to take you through 3 different examples based on some of the topics that Dave was just talking about for the types of things that you could be putting out there and sharing with your leads as they're starting to check you out, and also as you are proactively communicating with them as well. So Dave talked a lot about equity before and all the changes that are happening, whether it's now versus 2008, or how folks can use the equity in their home to potentially buy up. Let's look at a few examples of what this actually looks like in practice. And before I even go in here, these are examples that KCM members, you guys already have access to all of these things. If you're not a KCM member, you have a couple different options here. 1, you can go and create some of these materials yourself, or 2, you can use a service like KCM that is going to make it easier, quicker, and simpler for you in the end. Here's one, just an infographic on the rising home equity. We saw that map before, and really this is kind of like a big picture, right? A lot of the times that when you're talking with a client, it's on a local scale, but this is the big picture that's sort of showing, here's really what the story is with equity today. This is a completely different story that we're telling that versus what was happening in 2008. This is the type of thing that you could have on your website, or you could even have it printed out if you're doing in-person showings or open houses and things like that. You could have a blog on your website. I'm not sure how many of you have a blog on your site, but this is the type of thing where when someone checks you out, do they just want to see how many listings you have? Maybe, but also they want to know that you know what you're talking about and that you care about them. So a blog post is a great way to do this. This is an example of a blog we had the other week. Home equity gives sellers options in today's market. And the great thing about a blog is it's also a great video script that you can create. If you're not creating videos, using a blog as the script to then go and record yourself, it's basically a 2-for-1 right there. And then of course, what are you posting on social media? This is an example of a swipe graphic post that we have at KCM, where as you go from left to right, each little square talks about a different talking point around the home equity piece. So these are all different ways to talk about really the same topic here, but reach folks on these different channels. Let's take a look at another example here, changing homeowner needs. Dave talked a lot about how the urban to suburban movement, the vacation homes, just the fact that working remote is making life different and people are reevaluating their home needs. Let's make sure we're getting this message out to these folks. Another great example is this infographic here, where we're showing here's what people are preferring when it comes to, you know, what's their timeline for purchasing homes, or what specific attributes and assets they're looking for in the home itself. We've got another great blog post here. This is around surveys talking about, you know, urban to suburban moves. Here's an example of an Instagram story post that you could have up there. Again, this is a multi-part one where here's what's happening with the second home boom and why that's impacting folks. You know, someone might not even be thinking about that. Dave brought up a great point around people who could be looking to retire in a few years, but now could be an amazing opportunity for them to start looking at what that actual retirement home could look like earlier on. And you don't even have to record your own video sometimes. Sometimes you could even use a pre-recorded video. This one talks about home has a completely new meaning today. And I think we can all, you know, sit around, and as I'm sitting in my home and Dave's sitting in his home, and I imagine a lot of you are sitting in your homes right now, the way that we're evaluating and reevaluating what we need out of our home is completely different now. So using these as talking points to sort of, you know, trigger these conversations that you can have with both new and existing leads is a major opportunity, and ensuring that you have a variety of content so that you're meeting them on their level. Some folks prefer videos. Some folks really prefer to have the written word and are going to read an entire blog post. Some are visual learners. Don't just pick one. You got to make sure that you are reaching all of these different types of needs of your consumers out there. And then I'm going to give a little bit of a preview. Dave's going to jump into this a little bit later, but why should someone list this fall? There's some great examples around content that you can use to communicate the reasons why now is the time to list and not to wait. We've got our fall seller's guide. This is an entire professionally designed, you can print it out, or you can even use an online guide that talks through the biggest questions that are happening in the market right now, leads through all the different types of objections that are questions a potential seller might have. And it's just a great professional looking leave behind that you can use. Again, we've got plenty of blog posts on it. We've got this great quote or a social graphic that talks about, hey, sellers are calling the shots in today's market. Prices are rising and housing inventory is vanishing as fast as it appears. Again, a lot of sellers might not realize that right now, or they're still concerned about some of the pieces that we talked about earlier when it comes to inventory or potential housing crash coming up. So make sure you're still getting these things out in front of folks. And of course, why fall is the season to sell your house. This is one of our newest videos that we put out there. Again, if you're not a KCM member, you can certainly go through and write your own blogs, make your own videos, make your own social posts. But KCM is a super easy and simple way that you can combine all of these things together for yourself and get them quickly, easily, so that you're super on top of the market and relevant to what's happening right now. One last thing I want to hit on here is what are some overall, keys to creating a lead follow-up strategy that converts. So these are some tips that we have. I have a link here to our most recent blog post that we put together that's all around, here's some tips and tactics that you can use during your lead follow-up, whether it's on social media or on your website, or in here we give a lot of examples with email as well. Don't send every lead everything that you have. That's a big one. They don't want to feel like you're just bombarding them with information. Make sure that you are curating it for wherever that lead is in their journey. So whether they're, maybe 6 to 12 months away from looking, whether they're, maybe they're a little bit closer, they're 2 to 3 months away, you should have different messages for those different groups. And that's where it comes down to making it personal as well. So make it feel like you're talking directly to them about their problems. You're not just looking to get them to buy and sell right now. You're looking to help them along on their path and their journey. Make them feel heard and listened to. And again, that's where the third one comes in. You're going to be educating as you communicate. That's a huge one. That's really what we do here at KCM. That's what we're going to be for. And again, this makes you come across as an expert who cares about them and not just another salesperson, which I think can be a fear of some folks out there for sure. Fourth on here, communicate around a single point. Don't try and communicate the equity piece, the changes in homeowners' needs, and the why you should list right now all in a single communication. That's a lot for someone to wrap their head around. Focus on specific little pain points or specific little pieces of information each time you make a social post or each time you make a video. And then fifth, and I think this is one that we talk about a lot here as well at KCM, is you got to repeat it. Dave mentioned earlier the curse of knowledge. We live this stuff every single day, so it feels super obvious to us. But your consumers are not as in the loop, and they do not hear everything that you even put out there. Even if you post about it on social media before, posting about it again, they might not have seen it, or it might not have registered the first time that you had it up there. So, not being afraid to repeat it and just also reiterate and come at topics in new and different ways as well. All important in terms of how you approach leads. And eventually the idea with this strategy is that when they do have that question, when they are ready to buy or list, you're the first phone call that they make.